On my path to recreating procedural animations that I found beautiful, I feel like I had to learn how to do flow fields. The visual is mimicking a stream-like behavior, and as for the voids, it emerges from an apparently simple setting. Some particles are generated in a scene. Their direction depends on their coordinates on the map, and to have a flowing effect, they leave behind a trail. For the first and third point, I followed Frank's Laboratory's tutorial on creating a particle system in JavaScript. Instead of each object being a div like in the last video, the effect will be drawn pixel by pixel on a canvas. After each frame, the particle's new coordinates are stored, and the history of the last positions are used to display the trails. Now, for the second point. We have to create a grid and associate to each cell an angle. Whenever a particle enters a cell, it will follow the direction associated. To visualize these grids on a greater scale, I matched the angles with a color gradient and tried some settings to better understand the maps I just created. And following the tutorial I was talking about, I also generated the first flow fields map using a mix of cosinus and sinus functions, which already gives a pleasing result. Since sinus and cosinus are periodic, we have a repeating pattern. To have a more natural look, noise maps are usually leveraged. I wanted to create some pelling noise for a long time, so here we go. We start by dividing the canvas into bigger cells, and at each corner of this greater grid, we generate a random unit vector called the gradients. For each small cell, we compute 4 vectors, going from the corner to our coordinates. We normalize them and compute the dot product of each pair of vectors at our corners. I generalize the process described in a pelling function that takes the cell coordinates as input. After having computed the 4 dot products, we can interpolate smoothly between the values, depending on the position of the pixel inside its big cell. To be honest, I did not perfectly grasp the role of the dot product, but my goal this time was more to reproduce the effect, so I left that for later. After a few failed attempts, I managed to get some noise. I thought that these maps were too intricate to generate a nice flow field though, but when I add back my particles, I love the render. Now that everything is set, I can play with different settings and colors to generate various visuals.